We are back with another matchup with two titans on either side. We have Tasigur, the current leader of control decks, in the right corner against the leader of the lands archetype Lumra on the other side. We had this matchup in the first round already with two other pilots, if I remember correctly, and Lumra lost that matchup due to swapping for Sandman, I would assume. Like, my guess is that they actually lost the matchup because of the swap. Lumra is putting much more pressure on the opponent. There are a couple of ways to deal with the activation of Sandman, while, you're also not able to combo off with Sandman in the command zone, so it's not a favorable swap here, I assume. Here we have a Dust Bowl against a Mist Land Drop from Tasigur. Yeah, let's see how this one goes. Definitely comes down to the experience and overall practice against that particular matchup on both sides, actually. Tasigur coming down quite early, and player has to search for a basic land. I would have rather kept open the... Okay, he's going for an island, not a forest. Okay, interesting. There's a Lotus Cobra coming down. That can get dangerous rather quickly. But with the Tasigur on board, Lumra can't proceed attacking his opponent's land base. Hitching the Rakshasa's bargain. Okay. Yeah, I think that's something that I would have not done. He's leaning very much into this stubborn denial, which can be good. But in some cases, it's not. It does not handle the bear and a couple of other creatures. And I think if you're missing land drops already, I mean, Tasigur can operate on 3 lands quite well, I would say, for as long as he's drawing counter spells to counter the Teddy and keep swinging, it's fine. But the Rakshasa's bargain would have helped you finding those things. I would have personally pitched the Stubborn Denial, I think, but it's, yeah, as I said, this is something that's not probably worthy to counter. Then again, if you find a target for the Stubborn Denial, you could go for it. Command Beacon is certainly a card that helps a lot in terms of bringing back Lumra all over again. And if Lumra resolves, you always bring back the Command Beacon, which means for as long as your opponent has no deck-based interaction in the form of counterspells, Lumra will always cost only 6 mana to cast. It's a very sad consult here on Tasigur's side, only 3 lands. You look at 3 cards, you only keep 1 card. It's not what you expect from this spell. Looking at a recurring hex, I think it was called, the newest fatal push from Rixhaven. There's a Toxic Deluge, the Kefka artwork, quite a cool one, I think. Spell Snare, Stubborn Denial, and we're looking at an Auroral Possession, I think it was called, the Regrowth with instant, or Regrowth at instant speed. Yeah, he's not able to cast a Regrowth. And he also pitched a Rakshasa's bargain. I think searching for the island here was probably wrong, because the instant speed regrowth would have given him the opportunity to get back the Tail's End and counter Lumra another time. But that might have been a mistake. And another time, Command Beacon activation. Toxic Deluge is also not the interaction you are searching for against a 6/6, 7, 8 whatsoever creature. Drains lots of life. That's a really good flip here from Lumra, finding 4 lands, Maze of If, Mirror Pool or the Saga Forest, as well as returning the command beacon. And currently, if we are looking at Tasigur's hand, it does not look like he can handle that. Which means next turn the bear is hitting for 11. Thus, oh no, even more, right? Because we have the Mirror Pool. Going for the Rogue's Passage. You can... I think there was a land that also gives haste. If I remember correctly, I'm not entirely sure. No, never mind. You don't have to give haste because you can always keep the original and sacrifice a copy. So yeah, they're probably going through the line. Lumra player is explaining happens, or there might be, seems that there is like a judge call or something. Not entirely sure. But the game goes on. Right now, Tasigur's hand does not look like he can really get control over what's going on. So, there's a counter on the card. Is it really a mirror pool? Might be something else. But there is a concession nonetheless. And here he realizes, well, that was definitely the wrong basic land to go for. But okay, we have a second round. Tasigur on the play again. Forest coming down. No turn 1 play. There are not too many, but quite a few. Amulet, we saw Wild Growth, Utopia Sprawl. I would assume the deck also plays Elvish Reclaimer. Some lists play Sylvan Safekeeper to protect the teddy. Since whenever Lumra resolves, the lands are coming back anyways. Delighted Halfling is a thing, but I think not all the lists are playing it. So yeah, we have a couple of options. Expedition Map, etc, etc. The Veil decides to keep it on top. Bit of arguing again, and here we have a Armor Bloom. Okay, that should not resolve. But it looks like there is no interaction. We see a Cryptic Command, Tainted Pact, I think, 2 lands, and 2 other spells. Armor Bloom is giving a huge advantage here, bringing down Forest, Angle, Spawn whatsoever, and Attack Edge. Yeah, okay, the Attack Edge is not yet dangerous, but he's presenting a Lumra cast next turn already, right? So that's definitely a thing. Question is whether or not to cast the Tainted Pact. That seems to be the case. Okay. Let's see what he is looking for. Would be a simple counterspell for Lumra next turn. Just grinding out the game. Toxic is not it. I have no idea what the Spider-Man thing was. Venom, Secret Lair. This is, I think, the Hullbreaker Horror. Blink to Dust doesn't do it. The Daze. Yeah, I think I would not put my stakes on Daze against a deck that plays more than 1 land on average. Very easy to dodge that. Tailsend. I would have probably chosen the Tailsend here. Solid counter. Jace is gone. We already saw the Demonic Consultation. Tainted Pact is on stack or about to resolve, which means There's no way to win with Jace either. So you can also just keep on. I don't know why the player was looking at the bottom of his library. That should not be legal. I had that incident in a game in Prague too, where my opponent was resolving a tainted pact and he was looking at the bottom cards because he wanted to make sure. I mean, it was rather a beginner, I would say, and he just wanted to check if the card he was searching for was amongst the last cards, but you can always call a judge for that, and you can even get a game loss for it, since you cannot just randomly check position of cards in your deck. If you want to know that, you have to go through the entire Tainted Pact. He's looking for a subtlety, okay. Why is that? There were so many good cards to take instead, and now he's left with not that much. It looks like he exiled 80% of his deck, which decreases the chances of winning this game quite a bit. So yeah, I'm curious to see what he comes up with. There is a counterspell. Okay. About an aggressive Tasigur cast with a subtlety backup. He knows about the hand. The teddy bear exiling the Neo form. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Hullbreaker Horror is gone. The Misty Rainforest is probably not going to do anything outside of providing black mana. Archmage's Charm is keeping Lumra in check again. That's good. So maybe the plan here is to just have counter magic up all over again and counter the Teddy and just beat down your opponent with Tasigur. Takes 4 more rounds for that to happen. Here we have the Mirror Pool again. I'm not sure if that's a Mirror Pool. I have to check that up later on. I thought it was a Mirror Pool. The Mirror Pool would enter tapped, if I remember correctly. So maybe it's another of those Starfield things. And now Lumra checks on the exiled cards, probably searching for all the counter magic. So he can get an idea of what was exiled and what not. Which, yeah, if we have a look at it, quite a bunch of cards already. We know about the counterspell, and we also know about the cryptic command. So the question is there a way to get down Lumra again now? Costs 8. Nissa is coming in instead, having Talon Gates as a backup. Oh, there's a Fabled Passage as a follow-up. That's good. Not only producing additional mana, but also searching for an elf card. There are a few elf cards. As I said, Elvish Reclaimer is in the deck. I think Tireless Provisioner is an elf card. There might be Endurance, not too impactful now, but I don't even know if the lists are running Endurance. Some of them do. We have to see. Delighted Halfling is a Halfling, not an elf. Ah, here we go with the Provisioner. Okay. Yeah, definitely a good target, I guess. Helps to cast Lumra all over again, producing additional mana with Nissa and producing treasure tokens through the Provisioner now. So there's still the Talon Gates in hand. Oh, there's an activation. Oof. With such few cards in the library, I would not do that. I get the idea that he wants to find something in order to get rid of the creatures, because now all of a sudden He has to deal with 2 creatures at the same time. With that in mind, I would rather try to grind it out and expect these creatures to block instead of searching for an answer. Toxic is gone. I mean, you can even check your exiled part, right? Maybe there's not even much left to interact with those cards. So you just have to accept the fact that you will die in 10 rounds due to not drawing any more cards, because the library is empty. So yeah, I mean, the Talon Gates here is very, very well timed. I assume the Cryptic Command would tap down the creatures to have another combat step. He's drawing a card instead. Okay, that's crazy. I mean, I think they really can't afford that. I would, especially now, there are so many cards in the graveyard. All of those cards are providing an answer for Lumra, so why not just keep the cards in your library, save your activation in order to interact with Lumra at any given point. I think there is still the counterspell waiting. That could be a really, really close match here. Just about getting Lumra down. Seems that Lumra will see the counterspell. Yeah, that's good. Still on the offense. Going for the swing. 8 damage. There is no need yet to not do that. And the miscalculation is sadly not the counter you're searching for, honestly, because there are these 2 treasure tokens, and the opponent finds another land. Was a bit of a hasty tapping here. I'm not sure if he announced the Nissa trigger. So those are 6, 11. Yeah, this is 12 mana with the Nissa. Okay, so the miscalculation fails. And that changes the entire outcome here, since it means that Nissa would have to block next turn. There's likely no interaction for Lumra. Even going for the brain search, searching for something. We see Ponder, Brainstorm. However, fetching, what is he doing? Okay, that seems to be like an... Yeah, I think there are a couple of mistakes, maybe also a bit of greed included here with the subtlety. Could have been another or different line in order to... oh, he even stacked the cards wrong onto his library. Yeah, as I said in the beginning, it was it came down to the experience against either of those decks. Seems like Lumra has much more experience against Tasigur than the Tasigur player against Lumra. It might be a matchup that is in Lumra's favor. However, that not in Lumra's, sorry, in Tazigur's favor, actually, not Lumra's favor. Did not seem to be the case here. Also depends on whether or not people decide to swap and all that stuff. So yeah, nonetheless, interesting matchup. Cool lineups. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see each other in the next game. Bye bye.